Welcome to another live edition of Deep Look, Ultiworld's weekly podcast about the latest in Ultimate Frisbee. Alongside me is Ultiworld Senior Editor Keith Raynor. I am Charlie Eisenhood. It is Tuesday, April 8th. Keith, I really looked. I tried to find Pabst Light. I was going to bring a Pabst Light to this show and drink it on the air at noon. I mean, it's 5 o'clock somewhere, right? But instead, I just went with the trusty La Colombe, a much more appropriate drink of this time of day.
Are you going to explain the context of that, or are you just
no? People are just going to be like, "What is he talking about?" The UFA signing Pabst Light, aka PBR, but lighter. I think they're trying to compete with like Michelob Ultra, like super low carby, very bad beer. They signed a big, league-wide sponsorship. The Pabst Light logo on every jersey. I think Pabst Light just came into existence in March, so I couldn't find it in New York yet.
I didn't finish watching this video I was watching on TikTok the other day, but in it was kind of like a sciencey TikTok, and the person was talking about
really quick.
Okay,
how do you start a TikTok video and not finish it? Aren't they like 10 seconds?
Because it was long. No, they're not all short. Some of them were long. This one was long. And the person was like, okay, beer dehydrates you, right? Water hydrates you. Beer is mostly water. How does it dehydrate you? Like, how much beer do I have to mix with water for it to no longer hydrate you, and like the diuretic effects of it? Like, if you were starving in the desert, should you drink beer, or is that actually going to make it worse, right? If you're dying of thirst.
I mean,
it was actually an interesting thought experiment. I don't know how much water you need to put in, how much lighter you can make PBR before it becomes water. But
listen, it is a known truism in Ultimate that one beer is hydrating.
All this makes me think of the time that all this makes me think of the time that Emery Juice. We're really deep cutting here. Emery Juice tweeted, "How many leafy greens do I need to put in a bucket of KFC for it to become a chicken salad?" Which I think was like one of the great tweets of Ultimate Twitter's history, in my opinion, but it's just me.
Little known fact, coffee is hydrating. People assume the caffeine dehydrates you. I mean, it is true that it is a diuretic. However, there's more than enough water to compensate, and coffee is net hydrating, which I use to my advantage every day of my life. Let's get to our trivia question of the week.
All right, chat, get your beverage of choice, especially if it's caffeinated, to help get your brain working for this week's trivia question of the week. Charlie, we're talking about some of the stuff going on over in the UFA, and I want to take you back to the nascent beginning. I was there for this, for the start of the UFA, then the AUDL. And Charlie,
where's your Cranes gear?
Can you name? I need more Cranes gear. Can we please? You and I just have to start making some Cranes gear. It was actually kind of fire. I'm not gonna lie to you. Can you name the 8 original AUDL franchises?
All right, I'm gonna think about it for a second. I definitely know a few of them. But
okay,
please
think about it. Work with the chat.
Okay.
See what you can dig out of the data banks there. It's also the 20th anniversary of Breakmark, who is the official jersey provider for the Western Ultimate League and Premier Ultimate League, and they are doing giveaways to celebrate that 20th anniversary on Instagram every Friday. They run through every Tuesday, and last week they gave away their new performance tees. Everybody could use a great t-shirt. Never have I found too many great t-shirts. There's always some other t-shirt I can rotate out if I can get a new good one. We'll see what goodies they've got coming up this next week as well. But if you want to get a chance at last week's entry, you can get double the entries to win the prize when you enter in our personal code. This is the only place you can get this double entry deal. Use the code SERIES. So when you go to enter, add the code SERIES to your entry. You'll get double the chances to win. And you can do that at Breakmark on Instagram. Again, that's our friends at Breakmark, the official jersey provider of the Western Ultimate League and Premier Ultimate League, and use the code SERIES to get double the entries. Charlie, how are we thinking? How are we feeling about our original?
I'm ready to get started
cast for the ADL. Okay.
All right. Um, Philadelphia Spinners. In fact, well, should be noted that the very first time we had a Spinners home game, they had over 1,000 people at the game. Kind of auspicious beginnings.
In
Rhode
their
Island Rampage.
massive stadium. It was so big,
Yes.
so it felt cavernous to have 300 people there.
Rhode Island Rampage.
That's
Connecticut
correct.
Constitution.
Mhm.
Columbus Cranes. Detroit Mechanics.
Correct.
Indianapolis
Oh,
Alley
geez.
Cats.
Oh, geez.
There's two more, right? There were 8 teams.
You're missing 2.
Ugh. I'm pretty sure that I've gotten the only still remaining existing teams are Alley Cats Mechanics. I'm fairly sure. Is that accurate?
That is correct. Those are the only 2 teams from the original year
I
that
just
still
can't. I
exist.
don't know why I'm having a hard time remembering these last 2 teams. I'm figuring one is an East Coast team and one is like a Central team. Was there a Chicago team year one? Also, no, because they still are around, so that wouldn't make sense. I don't know if I'm going to get it. I don't think DC was in the league yet. New York definitely wasn't in the league. That's why the lawsuit was happening. I'm like trying to go through the cities in my mind. There was no Boston team. The Toronto wasn't
You're
there yet.
missing a franchise that your own Ulti-World Network did a podcast about.
Oh, of course, the Rochester Dragons.
The Rochester Dragons. And then the last one, I think, maybe the most ignominious franchise. Nobody remembers that this team existed. I've seen some great
Uh,
guesses, though. It's crazy that there are this many teams that fit that description. Our producer, Sue,
well, it's
Buffalo
not
Hunters.
oh, Buffalo Hunters, dude. Whoa,
It
that's
is
a
not the
crazy one.
Buffalo Hunters.
It's
Someone
not the New
pulled out
Jersey
the New Jersey
Hammerheads.
Hammerheads.
No, they were later. But remember they stole their logo from a tattoo company who then sued them?
Yeah,
um,
classic. You ready to tap out?
I'm tapping out.
All right, I want to say this is the specific name that they used to use, the Bluegrass Revolution.
That's right.
You
Kentucky.
Kentucky.
Was it Cincinnati?
Which yeah,
I don't
I
remember
think
if
I can't remember the order of events when they were in Kentucky. Then they moved the next year to Louisville or something, or maybe they started in Louisville, then they moved to Cincinnati, which is, for people who don't know, across like a bridge from Cincinnati to Louisville. Yeah, it was
Bluegrass
something like that.
Revolution.
Someone, those are your original 8, of which 2 have survived: the Mechanics and the Alley Cats.
Yeah, they played in Lexington their first year as a team,
Mm-hmm.
and then they moved to Cincinnati. Wow. That's I don't think I would have gotten that one even with a lot of time to sit and think about it. I just can't, I straight up blanked that one. I think maybe if I had thought about Cincinnati as a city, I might have had a guess, but I'm not sure I would have remembered the team name.
I thought I honestly had faith before the show. Sue and I were talking if you were going to get it. I said I thought you would. So we're close. We're so close.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, let's move on. We have the final bid allocation for college nationals, or I should say from regionals to nationals. Let's throw it up on the screen and take a look at how the bids finally broke down. USAU dropped the final rankings, I think, on Thursday last week. Nothing really changing from what we expected. And so here is a look at the D1 college men's rankings. Most important to note, BYU sitting there at number 8 in the Northwest. They will be playing at conferences which will keep the bid in the Northwest. So the Northwest going to head into regionals with 5 bids. The South Central and the Southwest and New England all going to have 3. Everybody else just gets 1. Keith, obviously, this is a pretty painful for New England, who would have picked up another one if if BYU had not played.
Well, I just want to comment briefly that this graphic solid, except that they did not indicate which teams earned the bids and included some teams that did not earn bids. So there's like a little smattering of teams that didn't earn the bids. A little clarity could have helped there. Just some color coding.
Actually, the website
Um,
has it really good, with little
yes, it
stars next to
does.
the teams. But this is the top 20
You could
plus
have the
bid earner.
stars here.
Yeah.
Yes. And it does say final rankings, not necessarily who earned the bids. So I get it. Um, yeah, I don't really feel that bad for the New England teams. Like they knew what was on the table when they came in. In the grand scheme of things, yes, and we've talked to death about BYU and their situation and how it impacts the division as a whole. It's not fair that they're going to keep a bid. We need a better system, but people knew the score coming into this more or less. Yeah, there was some hope that BYU wouldn't participate in the series, but I don't think teams should have been counting on that. And those teams had a chance. They were on the field and could have performed better. Uh, I think it was a disappointing weekend, I'd say, for Northeastern in the men's division. With their, I was pretty high on how they were going to do at Easterns, and they did not really back that up. So I'm not going to shed too many tears in this case.
I mean, New England Regionals is about to be lit. You got all these teams bunched up playing for those two bids. They're all like very similarly balanced teams. Obviously, UMass should comfortably win that region, but after that, you got four great teams vying for two spots. It's going to be electric.
Classic New England. I think this is what we've come to expect from the region as a whole.
Metro East coming in with the lowest ranked bid earning team. It's the auto bid, of course. Cornell at number 48. Keith, do you have any comments on the Metro East?
Good luck. Good luck, everybody.
All right, let's take a look at the women's final regular season rankings. It is a West Coast bonanza. The Southwest coming through with 6 bids, Northwest with 5. The only other strength bid left over goes to New England, a second bid out to New England because they have 2 teams inside the top 10. But otherwise, just an absolute dominant performance from the West. There's been a little chatter in the Ultiworld Discord that, some of these like Northwestern teams near, Victoria or whatnot, like didn't earn it or whatever because they were finishing middle of the pack at these big powerhouse West Coast tournaments. That's nonsense. That's nonsense. Like these teams are the best teams. And there's plenty of teams that had a chance to go in there and steal rankings points. It did not happen. I think genuinely this reflects how strong the West Coast is right now. And, it's still going to be exciting. Like those the games to go should be good games at both those regionals.
You're 100% right with what you just said about the West Coast. But I will say, I can understand looking over at come nationals time, come qualification thread, and being like, is it really that hard to finish 5th or 6th in your region? Like, is that really that impressive? You know, somebody's going to do that and go to nationals. So I get that. The thing about this set of rankings is Control F, Northeastern, no results found. They were basically the number 1 bubble team coming into the final weekend of the regular season. They were at East Coast Invite. I think they were the most likely team to move a bid if they could have earned a third one for New England. And they went 0-4 on Saturday and pretty much shot that opportunity away. They fell obviously out of top 20 altogether and took away that opportunity, which for a team that I thought played pretty well when they did travel to the West Coast, was an unfortunate way to end, especially when you're also tagging it with Northeastern men's division team performing poorly and not doing any favors for New England. But the West Coast was super strong this year. I think those teams are going to belong at nationals. Those are going to be quality teams out in the Northwest and Southwest. Notre Dame gave it a good run. They went all the way to the final at ECI. They had a chance to get a 2-bid Great Lakes, which whoa, we've been a long time. But they came up just short, which has to be painful after the way last year ended with them just missing out on a bid after going to Tally Classic and not winning, not dominating hard enough at Tally Classic. And then they come up just short again this year. So Notre Dame's been on the outside looking in. Feel for them.
Yeah, I think they got a real chance, though, against Michigan. It's going to be tough, but they have a chance to
Michigan
win that
looks
region.
Really good.
They look really good. I agree. But they're going to have a chance. If the weather sucks, we've seen it before. In fact, we see it more often than not in the Great Lakes.
I I think we're gonna
Cornell.
have a couple teams not at nationals that are good enough to be at nationals, which is a good place
Oh
to be.
yeah, yeah. Cornell coming in as the lowest ranked bid earner. The auto bid goes to Metro East, 33rd ranked. Any comments about the Metro East, Keith?
I think Cornell should be the definite favorite, especially with Ottawa not coming in. So
If Ottawa was
I think
playing,
that
they would be like a pre-quarters team or a quarters team. They have a very
potentially
strong
they
top
could be
end.
pretty good, but I think they were not listed. So I don't think they're going to be attending.
Yeah,
Nothing is for
they're out.
sure in the Metro East, but I think Cornell should be the favorite going into regionals.
Um, any other thoughts on the rankings here? Kind of a low drama ranking season. No shock. You know, random tournament getting dropped out for some team that causes everything to change.
Which is probably for the better, right? uh, I appreciate a little drama, but can we keep it on the field? I don't want it to be because of some registration error or whatever, some misunderstanding about sixth or seventh year. Oh, I forgot that I went to school back in 2016 or whatever. Uh, that stuff's no fun. I do think, we talked a little about this last week, but Wash U keeping it in the men's division despite losing in the final of a less than challenging tournament. I imagine that could be a bit of a frustrating result because they did that twice this year. They to me don't have big upset energy right now, but they're going to have 3 bids for the South Central, so they'll be at nationals. And at points this year, they really looked the part. But I keep waiting for this team to kind of pop off, but I don't know when that's coming.
Let's take a quick look at the D3 rankings. Uh, Fewer teams go to nationals, of course, in D3. It's 16 teams. Here's the breakdown in the men's division. Very balanced this year. 2 to the AC, 2 to the Great Lakes, 2 to the Metro East, 2 to New England, 2 to the Northwest, 2 to the South Central, and then 1 for North Central, Ohio Valley, Southeast, and Southwest. Interesting here, right? Asbury sitting at 7th, not ranked, but they would go to nationals. That's the word on the street. So does Davenport have a genuine danger to them lurking in their region as strong as Davenport has been this season?
This Asbury team is a total mystery. I mean, I think they they may have like a scholarship program, but I think the team's like super top heavy. So, in fact, not just top heavy, but like doesn't really have much of a bench. Like there aren't people on the roster. I don't know. I don't know the true story here. But interesting team, and certainly have thrown a joker into the deck going into regionals. I don't know if we should expect them to take down Davenport, but what a curiosity for this team to pop up at the end of the year. And the kind of thing that can happen in D3 because the game totals are so low, and connectivity is low, which gives high volatility in the rankings. So it's not that weird for teams to pop up, but this is like really out of nowhere. Like I don't think people even knew Asbury had a team until this year.
Yeah, crazy out of nowhere. I mean, they've won all their games this season except for a pair of losses to Illinois, of course, a D1 team. So I think Davenport will clearly be the best team here, but interesting team to keep an eye on. I mean, I can't imagine they won't make it if they go to full strength to regionals, given what else we see in the Great Lakes.
And let me slow your roll, Charlie, because you've put me in a position to denigrate our home region, the Metro East, as is appropriate based on their performance. But in D3, baby, it's a whole new world. 2-bid Metro East. Wesleyan goes to the final at Easterns, and
Yeah.
Richmond clings to the last bid so it doesn't waste Wesleyan's performance. I'm sure that would have really stung. Like, oh my God, we finally got us a shot at 2 bids, and the other team in the region blew it. Instead,
Rochester, you mean? You
2-bid
said
Metro
Richmond.
East. I said Richmond. I meant Rochester. Our team
Yes.
right next to Rochester.
Yes.
Not physically on
Yeah.
this list.
No, I mean, I think Metro East has long kind of been a much better situation in D3. There's just a lot of small colleges in the Metro East, and so makes sense. But yeah, I mean,
One of
how
them has
good is
Brian Jones,
Wesleyan?
so.
They're going to be really interesting. I think that they feel to me like a team that could make it to the finals even. I mean, Davenport's going to be a
Ceiling, low
heavy
floor.
favorite, but yeah. All right, let's take a look at the women's rankings. We've got One 3-bid region, the Northwest, taking down 3, courtesy of Whitman, Lewis and Clark, and Portland. Then 2 bids to the OV, NC, NE, and ME. 1 bid for the Atlantic Coast, Great Lakes, South Central, Southeast, and Southwest.
Well, let me just run it back to back. The 2 bid Metro East, Charlie. 4 bids for the Metro East and D3.
I see Wesleyan sitting up there at 4th.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy to be in 4th, but I can't control what the other teams in the region we're going to do. Nice for Rochester and Ithaca made a run too at the end. But Rochester find their way in, getting a 2nd bid for the Metro East should make regionals a lot of fun. But you're kind of like mirroring Asbury in some ways in the men's division. You've got Kenyon, a little more established than what we know from Asbury. Not quite off the radar, but a team that has raised some conversation because they have gone undefeated through the regular season, playing against teams that with very little connectivity. They're kind of like sitting atop a bubble. There's a little connectivity. It's not a complete bubble, but they have dominated the teams they played. But a lot of them are like developmental teams, low-level regional conference level teams. And yet they've managed to hold on to the number 2 overall ranking going into the postseason. Don't know what they're going to do. I mean, they have a very strong team in Haverford right behind them. HBM is going to be tough competition. I think they're going to be the favorites going into regionals, but it will give us a real litmus test for Kenyon. They've other solid teams in the region like Lehigh. So I think that we're going to find out more about Kenyon, but right now they're a little bit of a mystery, and you can decide whether or not you feel like they're overseeded or overranked, or is this a flaw in the algorithm? Is this something that's D3 is going to be more likely to have because of the low game totals that we talked about earlier? But adding some spice to the mix for the OV.
All right. I want to zoom out, Keith, and talk a little bit about the kind of like the expectations that we had coming into the season for college, and then how it's actually played out and what we've actually seen on the field, and kind of how our, expectations have changed over the course of the year. Let's pop up the preseason power rankings alongside the latest college power rankings and just take a little bit of a look here. And so, Keith, I'll just, throw it over to you first. It's not even necessarily just about like which teams moved up and down the most. I mean, I'm sure surely that can be a storyline, but where do you feel like we had our expectations upended the most?
Places where we as a collective were most surprised. The top of the list is pretty much the same, just reordered. So it's not there that I would necessarily point to, although we had that big debate about Oregon, North Carolina, number 1 overall, and I think Oregon has fell well short of feeling like they're the number 1 team. I don't think you would really construct any argument for that at this point in the season, even with them at number 4. But when I look at these lists, it's hard not to see where the Ohio Valley was coming into the season, with Pittsburgh and Penn State at 7 and 10. And now it's like, what's going on with Ohio Valley? Pittsburgh is unranked. Yes, you heard that right.
When is the last time Pitt was unranked? Never?
I don't think it has happened before. I literally think this is the first time. I'll give a quick check to our historical. Yeah, the lowest they've been ranked before this was 17th overall in 2022, February 2022, I think. It's the lowest they've been ranked prior to this year. Well, they've been 17th again at another point in time, but this year they fell out altogether with a really poor performance at Easterns. Penn State has not lived up to any of the hype that came in after last year's strong season. Then we projected forward into having them really highly ranked this season coming in. They haven't lived up to that. Disappointing year for the Ohio Valley's power teams. There's still a chance for them to right the ship, but only one of them with 1 bid going into nationals.
Yeah, I think, obviously Pitt was probably the big miss. I would also note that Brown, we knew Brown wasn't going to be as good as they were last year, winning the championship, driven by the incredible top end that they had that graduated. But they have been an outsized surprise. I mean, they are a pre-quarters nationals team right now with the potential to get to quarters, I think. I don't think they have the ceiling to go any further than that. But we got to give credit to this coaching staff and this program for managing to all be knocking on the top 10 going into the postseason.
I had faith. I had faith coming into this. I think that was one of the preseason debates. It's one of the storylines that we talked about in our preseason coverage. And I was a believer that Brown's system and talent, that people were not giving the rest of the roster enough credit for the talent that was remaining there, and they have delivered. But I do think it is a real testament to the coaching, not just the system, but the way that the team prepares. So I think that they're a real credible threat. 11 maybe feels, no, I guess I shouldn't say it. I'm looking at the teams around them. It doesn't feel rich to me even now. I don't
You
think they
look at
have
the
much of a
rankings.
ceiling beyond this,
Yeah, I agree. They
but
they
I
they
do think that
beat the
they are good
bad
enough to
teams and
make
lose to the
orders.
good teams.
Mhm.
Um, right now, I mean, you can look side by side here. The New England has been a total like craziness, right? Um, Vermont coming in preseason number 8, going into the postseason at number 22. Tufts wasn't even ranked. They're at 14. UMass better than we thought. I think for me, it doesn't matter until regionals. Like whatever. Like if Vermont comes out and plays great and loses by 1 to UMass in the final and easily takes the second bid, who cares about the up and down regular season? Like this is just one of those regions where I feel like it all comes down to regionals, and I almost don't care what happened during the regular part of the year.
And that's true for a lot of these teams in some ways. Obviously, many of them will not get to play at nationals. There simply are more teams in the top 25 than there are spots at nationals. But many of these teams, their legacy is going to be defined by what they do at nationals and how they perform in the postseason at regionals as well. Another team worth calling out. You mentioned Tufts unranked coming into the season. Another team not in the rankings that was a big miss for us. BYU finishing the season at 7.
Seriously.
And for them to accomplish that after what we saw last year, and for knowing that that is kind of their nationals, is trying to get as high in the power rankings as possible and high in the USAU rankings. Impressive performance for BYU, which it lends more credence to what they do as a program.
All right, let's go to the women's side of things and take a look at our preseason and our postseason, heading into the postseason rankings. And we got to start at the top. Vermont, I mean, so much hype coming in. It felt like it was going to be their year. And Keith, they just have not backed it up this year. They've fallen to 6th. I mean, they're still a bracket team at nationals for sure, but they don't feel like a credible championship contender. And we thought they were the favorites to win the whole thing.
Totally agree. I mean, it's been a disappointing regular season for Vermont. We have not seen them earn any of the marquee wins that we thought they would be capable of, given both their talent level and their experience, the rise that they've been on through the past few years to rise into national prominence, the strong recruits that they've gotten. There's a lot of things that have been in their favor. They still have an opportunity to change the narrative as they go into the postseason, but yeah, we came into the year thinking of them as the title favorites, and right now they feel like they are just below the cutoff line of being able to contend for a championship. They'll have to rewrite that story at regionals and nationals.
And how about UNC all the way down there at 10th? Do you buy that's where they belong? I don't.
Uh, I don't know. I think it's fair to it's justified to have faith that they're going to bring it in the postseason, but they have not looked special at all in the regular season. There's nothing about this team that has looked special. And yeah, they've had injuries, they've had people come in and out of the lineup. Yeah, we know about the talent on the team, we know about the coaching. All that stuff leads me to believe that they can finish higher than this, but it doesn't feel to me like there's a sleeping giant right now.
What else? What else was? I mean, we've had some big mix up out west, but what stands out to you?
Well, you got to look at when you talk about out west, you got to look at these Southwest teams. Cal Poly Slow, a team that it felt like we were kind of taking a chance on at 20. That's like kind of the spot where you're putting teams that are sleepers. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And they have really hit this year. I mean, they're top 10 right now going into the postseason. I think their stock's gone up. Michigan, not a team that moved a lot from 11 to 7, but you have to have a ton more faith in their ability to compete for semifinals. When coming into the regular season, I think we would have had that off the table altogether. So those are two of the big positive surprises from where we were at in the preseason.
All right. Well, we are going to take a quick break right now. When we come back, we've got some pro ultimate notes, some big new sponsorship deals from the UFA, and hey, the first weekend of the Premier Ultimate League. Stay with us. It's Deep Look.
Krebs just continuing to elevate play here. Krebs airs it out. Torchio and SUNY Binghamton with the win.
Perfectly placed in a layout score. Carlton trying to get back within one.
Win is there, so is Magnet.
And into the end zone over the outstretched arm.
Murray Gray, crossfield, hammer,
Exhausted. USAU still with some gas in the tank. This goal, the next one will be double game point. Legging it out. Parrott gets there first.
this one floated near the sideline.
Getting excited for college nationals. You can check out that full highlight reel with a link in the description over here on YouTube. And we are live on YouTube every week. So if you're just a podcast listener, check us out over on YouTube. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. Keith, we are over 200,000 YouTube subscribers now. It's been an amazing run. Social media team has been absolutely crushing it. We've gone from 35,000 to 200,000 in like 18 months.
People love Deep Look. What else can you say? Deep Look went live. Numbers went up. Can you argue with the correlation?
You can't. The correlation is clear. The causation. All right, let's talk about these UFA deals from that got announced over the last couple of days. I mentioned right off the top the Pabst Light announced as a title sponsor. And so let's just read some quotes here. We got Pabst Director of Culture Marketing, Kat Mata. We are excited to pair Pabst Light with the UFA. Pabst Light is a quality light beer with Pabst personality and something fun and new to celebrate with friends and family or when toasting teammates after a game. Keith, we got to see some shotguns on the field. I mean, I feel like this is the brand activation we need.
I don't see shotguns listed amongst Cat Mata did not talk at all about shotgunning. So in theory, it's easier with this lighter beer, right?
In theory. UFA CEO and Commissioner Tim DeBile says Pabst is a legendary challenger brand that has brought people and communities together for more than 175 years. And the new Pabst Light is a perfect fit for our fans, players, and league as we celebrate another season of Pro Ultimate Frisbee. We're thrilled to welcome Pabst to the UFA family. There's going to be a UFA Pabst mobile van and a 25-foot inflatable Frisbee that I guess will be Pabst sponsored as well. So there you go.
Look,
I think the bigger news might be the other sponsorship.
He's fluid in marketing speak.
The other one here is, they took the beer money, but they've taken the beer money, right? They had the Deschutes sponsorship a couple years back, but they take a cannabis partnership with True Leave. So, and I got a quote from the press release here. This partnership marks a significant milestone as one of the first between a professional team sports league in North America and a multi-state cannabis operator, reinforcing the growing interest in cannabis wellness from the athletic community. Is that right? Is there a growing interest in cannabis wellness from the athletic community? I don't know about that, but Keith, they took the weed money.
Yeah, legal weed money. You used to go to jail for this, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the picture is in the header. I don't know what that object is in the headline of UFA's announcement. But uh, look, I see the brand alignment here with the beer brand and the cannabis brand. I get it, and especially seems like True Leave like is really trying to go for a very modern, chic, athletic, kind of presence, and I see how that fits. But you also could see how it feels like some old stereotypes have come home to roost, even in their brand new sleek packaging. You know, yeah, those ultimate athletes drinking light beers and smoking weed, right? Come on, we're setting
but
ourselves
like,
up here.
but like, it is a little bit who we are. I mean, I feel like I was just talking to somebody, and I won't say their name, but I was just talking to somebody in disc golf who was like, why is the disc golf pro tour not doing these same kinds of deals? Like, I get it, right? You want to feel like it's professional, right? You want to feel like it's legit. And we fought all these years for all this. Like, it's so funny to watch how things have changed since like when Ultiworld got started in 2012, right? At that time, like the Weed Association, we were all so mad. We're not stoners. We are serious athletes. And, we get Triple Crown Tour and we get ESPN. And it's like, how do we clean it all up? And matching uniforms and no more hats and this and that. And, now it's the pendulum is swinging back to like recognizing the roots. And that's not to say that everybody in Ultimate drinks and smokes weed, but like, that is a big contingent, and I don't think it's unreasonable for them to look for this opportunity to do this kind of advertising, especially when other leagues maybe aren't willing to do it. Who knows how much they're getting paid for this stuff, but I can't deny that it feels like a good brand fit.
And honestly, to me, they need to prioritize cash value over brand alignment. So they need to be taking on revenue. I think more than all. And yeah, obviously you want to have strong partnerships that make sense and you can grow with. And I get it here. I'm not saying it's a bad move. But it is a little tongue in cheek. I do think that it's funny that instead of us running from cannabis because it delegitimizes our athleticism, we just should have legitimized cannabis as like a thing even athletes could utilize. So that instead it came to us rather than the other way around.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense in some ways, right? Like, just the general feeling towards cannabis legalization has changed a lot in 10 years. And I think some of the quotes and stuff here about like, oh, wellness and athleticism and marijuana, like, I don't know, like it all feels like a little bit of a stretch. But again, like people who are going to be drawn to watching Ultimate Frisbee are probably more likely than the average person to partake.
Yeah, although I will say, there seems like I do think it's for the whatever the Michelob Ultra, whatever the Michelob competitor is for this. They have some ads where it's like people are having this running competition, they're racing, and the winner of the race gets a Michelob or something. And every time I see that ad, I'm like, who does this? Is not real. This is not a real thing
Nope.
that exists.
No.
Like,
It is a real thing. I'm telling you, like the endurance sports community, they crush the Michelob Ultras.
I'm sure they do, but like you're
Because
not like
people want to drink beer, but not like they want to keep the calories down.
what happened. But back when I was in the AFDC in Atlanta, we used to have the PBR mile, which was an annual competition where you had to drink a PBR every quarter mile of a mile long race.
Yeah. Beer mile.
And then a beer mile. And then they also had the burger version. If you didn't want to partake in alcohol, you could eat a
God,
Whopper.
that sounds so much
So the
worse.
Whopper mile. So times have changed, is what I'm saying. But in some ways, they haven't. It's flat circle.
It's hilarious, isn't it? It's hilarious. Very interesting. So, big league-wide sponsorships. with the vices. How long till DraftKings, Keith? How long till DraftKings again? Bring it back. Bring it back.
Oh, please, please, please.
There's
I
DraftKings for
need a new
disc golf
house.
now. You got
We're
to
so
lock in on
close.
the disc golf.
Bro, I'm taking out a second mortgage when they drop DraftKings for Ultimate again. I'm leveraging, man.
Let's check in on week 1 of the Premier Ultimate League and see what's going on in the Western Ultimate League as well. Here's what we got for PUL week 1. Radiants go out to LA and get the win 11-9. Atlanta over Austin 11-8. And in the nasty, nasty rain and weather, Surge beat the Red 11-10. Got to tip the cap to the Radiants. Small roster, long journey, and they go out to LA and get a very important win to start their season.
Charlie, I thought the PUL was 4 quarters, but it looks like they played games to 11. Is that what happened? But
Seriously low scoring games.
Look, I picked LA to pull it off, especially when I got a lot more confidence when I saw that they were sending what Raleigh was calling the Fab 14 out there, and I felt even more confident when Raleigh was down like, I don't know, 5-3 or something. But they roared back in the second half, pulled off what could amount to being a huge win. And it's probably even better now that Atlanta also beat Austin. So now you've got like just a pile up in what's going to probably be behind DC in the regular season for that second spot out of the South. And Raleigh's going to be in the driver's seat. If Atlanta turns out to be for real, maybe that's a different type of challenge, but I think Raleigh can travel well when they play Atlanta in a way that they might not be able to when they go to LA. So a big loss for Austin as well. And Austin and LA have to feel like, okay, this is going to be a real uphill climb to get back into a postseason position, because Raleigh is in a commanding position, assuming that they can go out and get a win over Atlanta as they have in the past. And then Philly narrowly avoiding the upset. Kind of not exactly the prettiest weekend of Ultimate, but compelling results at the end, at least.
Let's check in on the Western Ultimate League as well. Here's what we've got for week 3 scores. The Alpenglow moved to 2-0 with a 17-14 win. The Super Bloom crushed the Wild in Salt Lake 17-8. Wow. Absolute beatdown there. Super Bloom moved to 2-0. And then you've got Seattle going 12-10 over the Falcons. So still a bunch of undefeated teams in the Western Ultimate League, Keith.
Oh, I'm sure our friends over at Double Overtime are lamenting maybe the death of the Circle of Suck. The Western Ultimate League famous for its parity, and yeah, Oregon gave Colorado a nice run, which is a good change of pace from where they were at when they played against Seattle. But seeing some blowouts from the 2-0 teams so far this season, it makes you wonder if maybe that narrative is going to be put out to pasture, because the 2-0 teams have handed out some beatdowns so far, and then you got the Bay in the middle at 1-1. We'll see how the season progresses, but I'm feeling good right now about my San Diego pick. But Seattle has looked very impressive.
Yeah, San Diego also in good shape. They're going to be at Arizona in 2 weeks, and then they're home against Seattle, and then they're home against Oregon, and then they're at Colorado in the last week of the season, and that should be a really good one. Circle that one already. So yeah.
For the record, also, I think that Oregon score looks closer than the game actually felt. I don't feel like Colorado's ever really in danger. Oregon played better in the second half, but I don't think they really closed that gap that much.
All right, it's time for our mailbag question of the week. Keith, what do we got?
All right, this week's mailbag question of the week comes in from Tim in Discord. He asks a very pertinent question to the real world, which connects with Ultimate. How could Ultimate be impacted by a potential recession here in the United States? Charlie, you're a economic-minded individual who consumes a lot of current news. What's your read?
Man, it has been an ugly few days if you're a stock market participant. Look, recessions are a thing. We'll have another one at some point, whether this year or in the future. I think I'm like trying to imagine what a recession would look like, and I think I'm more concerned about like the longer run effects of recession, where if companies are laying people off, are they looking to permanently downsize their workforce by using AI, by, consolidating some jobs, and like, are there just fewer jobs to go around? Um, I, I think that for the most part, people in Ultimate tend to have more sort of white collar, upper class jobs. And there's lots of doctors and lawyers and people in professions that are probably relatively safe for now from that kind of thing. Um, but, I do think that it could yield some teams scaling back their travel a little bit. Um, I think that people might look for more budget options for things like jerseys, but I have to say that I don't necessarily think it's going to have a widespread impact on like the elite level of competition. It might make things harder for, say, like the pro leagues, but I think that it's a relatively affluent community overall, and that means that like the impacts of recession, barring something awful like 2007, are probably going to be fairly muted.
I think especially for the elite competitive community, I think you're right. Like maybe you're looking at some slightly higher prices. It could affect travel prices or things like that. Maybe slightly lower spending power by household. So, you might just see people a little more stretched for some of these competitive opportunities, and maybe that impacts people's willingness to do big international events, to
That's
pony up for
true.
that, or to do some of the like more extravagant travel tournaments and things like that. But I think where you could start to see a more noticeable impact is more at the local level. I think you could see stuff like LDOs struggling, like local leagues feeling some pain, as field costs feel like we talked about how they've been on the rise. I don't know how this will affect that. Maybe not at all, but it might affect the spending power of people's willingness to plunk down, 100, $125, $150 for league. I think that's where you could see some of the pain start to creep in. And then it's so hard to know about the long term effects of like growth at a smaller level, where, for example, youth girls division ultimate has been in a real tough spot. Could this impact that in some way? That's probably too far afield for me to really have a projection on. But
Yeah,
those are
I
the kind of
doubt it.
things I would monitor. Those are
I think,
areas where I think that's where the pain would be most noticeable because it would continue a trend that's already happened.
yeah, I mean, if you lose your job, you're going to simply be less willing to spend money on hobbies, of which Ultimate is one. Like, it's not, for many people, it is a lifestyle, but it is also something that you don't need to do. And people maybe they don't play a club season. Maybe they just play pro for a year, because they don't want to spend the $5,000 to $10,000 that they spend during the club season. Um, I certainly think that international travel could be off the list for some people. But again, it's like, do you keep your job or do you lose your job? Like, that's really what it comes down to in recessionary times, right? If it's a more mild recession that is mostly like people cutting back on buying lunch out and getting Starbucks, like, that'll hit corporate profits, but it's probably not going to have a big impact on jobs. I think that the thing is, people in our age range, the only real recession that we have felt, with COVID as somewhat of a asterisk exception, because like more or less the government paid you to stay home for much of that, um, is 2007, which was so brutal. And, for people our age, Keith, we were in college or maybe just out of college. So like, if you're just coming out of college, it was a hard time to get a job, but it was way worse for people who were like mid-career, like Gen Xers who lost their job and then maybe couldn't find work for like 2-3 years. Um,
Yeah.
but we just haven't had a more mild recession, which is a lot more common than like a complete breakdown of the financial system.
But I mean, and you mentioned like the pro leagues, and yeah, I think it could hurt the gate or whatever. But I think when I think about something like the fact that the PUL and WL raised so much of their money from this crowdfunding efforts at the beginning of the year, uh, that in some ways it's like, oh, that is the kind of thing, the kind of discretionary spending that someone might scale back on. But
Sure.
I think the type of person that's already donating to that is probably fairly insulated from the challenges that come with a recession. That's not true for everybody, But like you said, I think a lot of people in Ultimate who are already putting money into those types of efforts are in fairly secure positions financially. And so I don't even know that stuff's going to be that hugely affected.
I think the bigger thing is going to be for companies that are operating in outside of the United States that are trying to sell products here, because like straight up tariffs have they're in effect right now, right? So your VCs, your B Ultimates, Zue, Zone, all these companies that operate outside of the US and have this giant ultimate market, the biggest market in the United States, dealing with that and like supply chain disruption and uncertainty of tariffs, like that could genuinely hurt their business. But mostly, for domestic companies who are doing, selling jerseys to mostly youth and college teams, I doubt you're going to see much of an impact there.
Even with the cost, I mean, I'm sure that a lot of that is being sourced outside of the US to keep it affordable.
That's fair.
I mean,
that's a fair
they're going to
point.
see some rising cost, I assume.
That's a fair point. But that's going to get passed through. You're going to see jersey costs go up, right? That's going to be the most
Right.
immediate impact of tariffs.
Yeah, and I think those companies are not operating with really fat margins. So I do think that's a place where you could see some meaningful economic changes in the ultimate space.
Yeah, interesting stuff. Email us anytime with your thoughts on this or any other topic, deeplook@ultiworld.com, or hit us up in the Discord. Get yourself a subscription. Got 1 week to still save money on Ultiworld subscriptions before prices go up. So sign up now, lock in a price, and get ready for college regionals coverage coming up, and then college nationals right around the corner, both D3 and D1. Super exciting stuff. We're going to talk about the UFA exhibition game with some experimental rules in our subscriber bonus segment live in the Discord right after this. So join us there. Multiworld.com/subscribe. Give us a like, give us a subscribe wherever you listen to the pod. Thanks for being with us. For Keith Raynor, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long. We'll talk to you next week right here on Deep Look.
Shout out Paige Beckers, bringing one back. Bringing one back to stores, baby.
That was a beatdown.
Oh,
Florida.
Yeah. Defense
Getting it done last night.
Go Gators. It's all looking good for me right now.
It's coming up for you, isn't it?